We're now in television.
All right. Good evening. We welcome you to the May 10th, 2017 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of East Hampton. We have a few administrative items we need to take care of first. First would be public comment or speak time. If there's anyone here who has anything that is not relevant to the hearings that are on the agenda for this evening. Usual case, but sometimes we surprise ourselves. Approval of the minutes from the April 12th, 2017 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay,
I'll second it.
all right. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And do we have any correspondences other than what was sent out to us earlier?
Not really.
Okay. All right. Well, like usual, that went faster than expected, but. We really need to move that time up, but right? 6:35. We're gonna.
6:30.
Yeah, okay. So, our first application this evening is from Michael Orzel and Michelle Pelletier of 79 West Street, seeking a special permit to operate a tree service business under the East Hampton zoning ordinance 10.4 major home occupation. The subject property is located at 79 West Street, parcel ID 135-48, and zoned industrial suburban A, R15 area. Michael Orzel or Michelle Pelletier, are you here to speak in reference to that?
Yes.
All right. Tell us what you'd like to do. What's going on?
All I'm really doing is just parking my truck and my trailer, my truck and my chipper there, and I have a small little sign in the front, and that's it. The business is not there. It's just my truck and chipper is parked
Okay.
in the driveway.
All right. So you do no business at all in your house?
No.
Or,
No, it's all on my cell phone. They call me.
And everything, like if we get fuel or anything, it all goes with credit cards, and we have a minimum payment or a payment that's set up to come directly out of the checking account. So, and then we get insurance bill, and that comes directly out of, because everything's insured.
Okay. But there's no customers coming to the house?
No.
No storage of materials?
We have to go there because we have to go estimate somebody's tree. We have to go to their house. Anything that is stored, it's stored on the bucket truck, like fuel, chainsaws, and that's a fireproof box.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody on the board have any questions concerning this?
So do you store any of the wood on the property?
No.
No.
I usually either give it away or sometimes some people buy it
Yeah.
from me.
Everybody wants wood. It's so much cheaper than fuel these days, so.
I can pretty much, if I was at a job, I could pretty much go put it for free and it's gonna be gone in a day. But that doesn't happen all
And
the
actually,
time.
our wood chips, we actually donate to the Parks of East Hampton because they put them on the playgrounds for the kids.
And where do you park the truck exactly?
Right in the driveway.
I can actually show you pictures. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at. I tried to email them to Jamie and I got nowhere.
That's okay.
I can show you a picture of the bucket truck. Maybe. Oh, there we go.
While she finds the picture, I have a couple questions. I don't believe East Hampton regulates truck parking in residential zones under zoning. I think we went through this a number of years ago. We had an application for a tree company next door to Maggie's house. And we approved it, and the consensus was, under zoning, we don't regulate trucks.
Subsequently, we did the entire home occupation ordinance.
But it still doesn't mention size of vehicle.
It does.
It does.
It does.
'Cause
It does. The ordinance says now that only class 1 and class 2
Together.
vehicles as defined by Mass
That is the right
DOT.
one.
That's
the
right,
bucket
oh,
truck
that's
and
right,
chipper.
okay, all right.
And then
My
that's
mistake.
his regular truck that we park there, and then mine goes in the garage.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay. Did you see this?
Yes.
Would you like
Yeah, I went by your house, I saw it.
Oh, okay, okay.
I always go, I always go and look at sites.
So looking at, do we have any more questions? We can go ahead. I was just gonna point out, looking at this major home occupations regulations, it looks like this 10.45.5, unless otherwise allowed by the board, only Class 1 and Class 2 vehicles, as classified by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, may be stored or used on the property in conjunction with the major home occupation. I think that's also why I got it into the major rather than the minor. Up here, only Class 1 and Class 2 vehicles may be stored for a minor occupation on the property. But there is leeway that the board can allow in the major occupation anything other than a Class 1 or Class 2 vehicle.
Yeah.
That seems to be how you got sucked into this whole.
Yeah, because I was here for 2-3 days with Jonathan and Jamie, and we were trying to figure it out. I had to go to get his registration and stuff, so that's where it came up with the major.
So it's really discretionary on our part.
I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
Should we hear from?
All right, Tony, do you have any other questions? Anything? All right. Oh,
The neighbors.
well, we'll get to the neighbors, and I just wanted to, all right. We will, at this point, we will open it to anyone who is here to speak in reference to it. I will ask that you state your name, your address, and you address the board. You don't address the applicant. And we will start right here, if you so desire. And we're gonna work our way around the room. If you're not in reference to this case, we'll skip you, obviously.
Okay, my only concern, Laura Quirk, I live at 84 West Street,
Yeah,
is maintenance of things like chainsaws, the smaller equipment that goes along with the business, and where that's actually done.
Flurry.
okay.
Okay.
So, your maintenance is all done off-site,
Yes.
Yeah,
okay?
Flurry.
Okay, sir?
I was wondering whether if this permit is granted.
State your name and
Oh,
address.
I'm sorry, my
That's
name is
okay.
David Quirk, also 84 West Street. And I was wondering if the permit is
One person at a
granted,
time, please.
if the permit is granted, is there like an annual renewal? Is there any reviews?
Well,
How does that work?
In a situation where we have the authority to issue a permit, we also have, it says here that the zoning law says home occupation permits may be amended or renewed in accordance with the ordinance. Home occupation permits are not transferable and shall expire upon the sale of the property or abandonment or vacancy of the property by the resident operating the home occupation. The conclusion of the time is set as a condition of the zoning board of appeals. In other words, we could say that, you've got 2 years, 5 years, whatever we said we would want to do, or the issuance of subsequent home occupation permit at the same location. So if they decided they wanted to open a second business, this first one would then go away. But we can, if we approve this, we are permitted to put conditions upon the approval. And so in cases like this, we would make sure, we try to stipulate, what, you may move forward with these permits. If you go beyond that, you either need to come back, or these are the rules, play by the rules.
Right, and how strict were those permits? Say he bought a second truck, next year, the business was doing really well, and he had 8
Well,
employees now, and they were
that's-
parking their pickup trucks.
It says, well, one of the main rules is no more than 2 non-residence employees shall be employed to work at the subject property. Now, obviously, there's a kind of a vagueness in this, in that the employment is actually not done on site. Well, the work is not done on site, but the place of employment is there. So at that point, it becomes that address, which would be subject to that regulation.
And we could also stipulate tonight that there are no other employees that could ever park on this property, or no other trucks there.
And that's.
So it would be restricted to the one vehicle that's there. If his business grows, his employee would have to keep her truck on her property and get a permit from us to do that.
Right.
That's
Okay.
easily
So-
done with
so that's-
stipulations.
That's what we do.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I
moving- Yep.
Oh, I was just gonna say something. I understand the concern, and I just wanna assure you guys that it's not expanding. I wish it was, but it won't be. Expanding. Those bucket trucks are quite pricey.
All right, moving along. Is there anyone else? Yes, state your name and your address.
Anne Favorite Lynch. I live at 76 West Street, or I still own 76 West Street, and I live, it's essentially kitty corner, almost directly across the street. And I would say that I would have major concerns about allowing the variance because, or allowing the truck to be stored there, for 3 reasons. Since they've been there, I assumed at first that they were having tree work done on the property and not that it was a business being operated there. And there's been long periods of time of idling, creating both noise and actual pollution. And it sounded like grinding to me, maybe it was just idling, because I assumed they were doing tree work because there are trees on the property. And another concern I had is we have kids that use the only sidewalk on West Street, which is, as you know, a busy street, but still very residential. And so we rely on the sidewalk that's on their side of the street. And we've had issues with trucks in that immediate area being on the sidewalk and having to walk around them, making it unsafe for our family.
Okay. Moving along. Anyone? Anyone else in reference to this here? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Ashley Kraus, 88 West Street. I'm concerned a little bit about sort of the changing of the character of the neighborhood to have it is a very large truck on the property. Although it's generally gone during the day, I think.
Yes.
But I also echo the family safety concern that is the only sidewalk. It's already a busy street. And I also was, just to be sure that I understand, is this the business address?
The business address would be this
Okay,
address.
so it's not that it's somewhere else and the truck is just parked there in the evening, but
Correct.
there's no activity
But
at.
there is no
Okay.
activity on the site. Okay.
It is a residential neighborhood, so it does seem sort of out of place, but that is my concern.
Well, and that's why we have these regulations, and that's why we offer this opportunity to come in and appeal for, use and things like that.
So this truck is larger than the one in class, what was it, 1 and 2 or A and B?
Class 1 and 2. That is a class 1 vehicle is typically under 12,000 pounds. Anyone can drive it. Class 2 vehicles between 12,000 to 26,000 pounds.
Okay.
And then above that is a class 3, of which you need a CDL.
And so this truck is
It's the other way around.
Oh, it's the other way around? I'm so close. I got the measurements for you.
So which one is this truck?
This
What
is
size?
in excess of 26,000.
Okay, so the
It's a class 5 if I read the Department of Transportation because it has dual wheels on the rear axle. So that includes things like large pickup trucks and that sort of idea.
It's actually a class 2. It's registered as a class 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I had brought the registration in. Jamie actually saw it.
I didn't.
Oh, okay, then it was Jonathan. I'm sorry.
Really?
I'm sorry, I misspoke. If I had the registration with me, I'd be more than happy to show you guys. But it was something in the it was something with the,
Can I, if John said it's a class D driver's, it's whatever the standard driver's license to operate the vehicle.
Yes,
But the weight
they-
class of the vehicle bumps it up. It's not class 1 or class 2, it's
Yeah.
maybe class 3 or 5. I don't know what their classification system is. But
Okay.
his determination was that although it just needs a driver, anyone with an on-wheel drive.
yeah,
driver's
it was a
can drive that
license
vehicle,
that is registered
but
as.
that's separate, the license is separate than the vehicle class as for the size of the vehicle. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
It's typical state.
What it was registered for, what he needs a license for, and what it actually is, I guess, are two different things. I don't know, it makes no sense.
It's sort of like an RV, in that sense. It's a large vehicle, but you don't need a special license for it.
Right.
But I do believe it's a class.
And I understand the neighbors' concerns about the sidewalk being blocked. I know it has happened in the past, and I apologize, and that will not happen again. Michael and I will promise from here out that that will not happen. And she is correct about it idling, but we never go on jobs much before 9 o'clock. It's a diesel, so you have to let it start up and you have to let it idle.
Does it have an automatic shut-off, idle shut-off?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay. Is there anyone else that has anything? Yes, sir.
Michael Tiskus, 94 West Street. I was just wondering, would it be possible to have the truck pulled back on the property a little bit more? I don't know what the layout of your property is, but if you had like a side, area where you could pull the truck, maybe halfway past the house, then I think it might solve a lot of the visual problems on the street that,
Yes,
some
I'll
people are
answer that
concerned
question
about. It
when
was a
you're all
solution
done.
I thought of that, might work.
If you see on my yard there, right on the side of the garage, there's a fence with the lilacs. We need to take those lilacs out and we want to move it so we can put it up on the side of the house. Because I had talked to my neighbor right next door. That gentleman, I became very friendly with him and his girlfriend. They don't have a problem with it. We actually help him plow his driveway in the wintertime, so we kind of meet halfway with the neighbors, so there's no tension. Yes, we do need to take those lilacs down. Unfortunately, the people we bought the house from were elderly and they didn't do a lot of yard work, so there's a lot of maintenance right now, and it's just one of the things that we kind of been forgetting about. But if everybody's willing to give me a chance and give me to the end of this month, I will make sure it's definitely taken care of.
Will you put like a processed stone or something down to park it
What
on?
were you
so it
gonna
won't
put
go
there?
on?
Yeah, inch and a half stone, yeah.
Like as you drive it on it, it kind of forms.
Because I was gonna say, I drove by the house and I can understand the neighbors concerned of this truck. I'm not a big fan of trucks in residential zones, as you know by my comments about the home occupation near my house. However, I think if this truck were parked on the side, next to the garage, and is there a fence or something between your property and those neighbors?
Yes, there is.
Then I wouldn't have an objection, and I can't speak for the other neighbors, but I just sitting on that driveway, it does look out of place and inappropriate in a residential zone.
Oh.
But if you move it to the side and pull it down parallel to your garage,
Like I said, if you guys are willing, by June 1st, I will promise that we will have that sign down, or that fence down and those lilacs removed, and we'll have papers, and it will be parked on the side if everybody's willing to give us a chance.
could we ask the neighbors again how they would feel about that scenario? Which is very different from the appearance of it today. If they would,
So, and I think if I could just say something, just kind of briefly. My concern in getting too many stipulations and in what we expect to be done leaves too much room for interpretation of people driving by. And then it creates bureaucracy and someone having to go and check on it. But I think if we can have general look, we're gonna keep, the applicant is gonna do their best to keep it on the side of the house, back.
see, I wouldn't vote for it, whoever stipulated they had to store it there. I think where it's stored now is inappropriate.
Oh, no, I understand that, but I'm saying that we need to make sure that what we put in there is reasonable for the applicant and reasonable for the neighbors.
Right.
Because if we make it if we try to pigeonhole it in there, it's gonna become a point of angst among everybody.
How would it be pigeonholed?
In that we said it has to be parked there and it can only idle for 4 minutes.
Oh, I'm not talking.
And all kinds of things like that.
I'm not talking about the idling, I'm just talking about a second driveway
Mhm.
that the garage shields the truck on one side, the fence shields it on the other, and so the neighbors would only see the chipper in the back of the truck at the most.
Right, or the nose of the truck, depending on which way it was.
It wouldn't be on the sidewalk.
It wouldn't be on the
It would
sidewalk.
be on the sidewalk, it would be basically out of the view of.
It would be shielded.
Right.
I like Ninja's solution. I mean, I think the applicant has already stated that they're willing to do that. So I don't really see a problem with putting that as a condition. I mean, we can try to word it as appropriately as possible.
And I don't wanna create more work than we need. Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Um, the truck can't be parked in front of the, like in the front setback? Or, you know, just to keep it in line with the
Yeah.
zoning?
Yeah, with the zoning.
Um,
Well, see, and then are we running into the situation of a side yard? Or are we going?
No, well,
I mean, the front setback goes the entire,
Right, but I'm saying if we decide we want it will it fit between the building and the side yard setback?
yeah, I mean, this, they have as a distance of 40 feet, so that has to be 30. There's probably 25 to 30 feet from the side of your garage to your property line.
Yeah.
Yeah, on that side, there's a lot.
So there's,
Okay.
there's a lot of room there.
Yeah.
And I think that a stipulation should be that the driveway extend the length of the garage and the truck be parked as shielded, so the garage will shield it the most. That the truck has to be here, not in the driveway in the front. That when the truck is stored there, other than an emergency, you park the truck so that it's shielded by your garage on one side.
But you guys would give me time to fix this, so you wouldn't expect me to do it tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
We try to be pretty reasonable.
I think
Everybody would see that. Okay, we'll start back over here.
From my perspective, that still wouldn't fix it. It would still change kind of the residential nature of our neighborhood, which I think we're all fighting pretty hard to maintain because it is a busy street. But even more importantly, because I'm less concerned about visuals, is the idling and the noise and actual pollution that creates, because it has idled for a long time.
Okay.
Directly across the street from my house, and that's not fixed by where it's parked.
so what was your name again?
Ann Lynch, favorite Lynch.
Okay. And next,
I was just wondering about the sign.
the sign will
There was-
fall under the sign ordinance.
You're allowed up to a 2 square feet? I
2
think,
square
under
feet.
the home occupation.
Under a home occupation, you are allowed
Okay.
a certain size.
Okay.
And what was your name?
Oh, sorry, Ashley Kraus, 88 West.
Okay.
My name's Amity Perman, I'm on 83 West Street, I'm the other neighbor. This makes me happier, I wasn't sure if they were running the business out of the home. These all sound fine to me, I'm all for small business, I own my own small business, so kudos to you for that. And I think the parking on our end makes more sense. I know about the idling and the diesel and that is required, but maybe they could minimize it as best they can. But as on my end, I'm glad because I didn't want people turning around in my driveway all the time or parking in front all the time, but it makes me feel much better.
I was gonna say, isn't it state law? That's what I was, actually was gonna look that up. Or if you wanna look it up, just because I think that is one of the, as much as I don't wanna put more regulation in it, but
Yeah.
if it's state regulation, then that's what we have to do.
Interesting that they have to
I
comply
just, I think maybe what you're talking about, I was just curious, Michael Tiskus, 94 West Street.
Thank you.
There's probably idling legislation in the state that might, control, the length, duration.
Yeah, that's what.
So you may not need to add that and complicate, like it may be already taken care of and it's just about, compliance with that. I have
Well,
no
and
idea
that's-
how long
yeah,
that would
and-
be.
and I think
So
that's
that
what
could
we're
still be
gonna-
an issue if it's like the state allows for an hour, clearly that would be a problem for you. But I mean, if the law says, 15 minutes, that might be different. So I just was curious I didn't look
It's
that up.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
and there we go. If it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. Yes.
And favorite Lynch, I'll just say it's idled for much, much longer than 5 minutes. And I don't want it to be a situation where it's like calling the police to get tickets issued to stop idling.
And I respect that completely. Anything that's happened prior, if it's opposed to what we decide to approve, unfortunately, we can't do anything about. But moving forward, we all know what the rules are, so then everybody can say, that works, we're gonna move forward. And, we try to set things in, like I said, in a reasonable type of thing, and if it works, and it may not work for him. And at that point, then he's gonna have to find someplace else to store his vehicle. But at this point, that's why we have public hearings. so we can hear what everybody has to say, but also follow what the rules are that the city has put before us. All right, so is there anyone else who wants to speak in reference to this? Okay, at this point, we're gonna close the public hearing. If at some point we among the board have another question, we will ask the question to the person we want the answer from. It will probably be the applicant, and they are only allowed to answer us, and we will go from there. So, do you need a motion to close public hearing, or just
close it.
Okay, so discussion.
I'm not a fan of trucks in residential zones, but I see enough of them in East Hampton. There used to be a tree truck for years at the intersection of Plain and Lime Streets. Because I used to have to, when my father was sick, drive twice a day to Westfield, and I went by that tree truck. You know, it was just there. And there are lots of other trucks, so I don't think this is as big a deal as long as it's parked next to the garage. I think stipulating the front setback, according to Jamie, is 30 feet in that zone. So the truck has to be a minimum of 30 feet from your front property line, and your front property line is probably a couple feet beyond the sidewalk. I'm assuming the city owns like 10 feet beyond the curb, and the sidewalk is part of that, and there are a couple more feet. So try to park it so it's shielded by the garage, and that it has a processed stone surface so that there's no dust and dirt, and that any debris probably that you got on a job site would be gone by the time you get there, but that'll take care of any remaining. You could follow the state law on idling. The 2 square foot sign you have is acceptable.
I mean, we're gonna run through the criteria for a major.
Yeah.
Okay. Just gonna.
I think the only other stipulation or condition would be that there not be another large vehicle, that it be limited to that one, you know, other than class 1s, class 2 vehicle.
Otherwise, it'd be back in the front again.
Right.
Yeah, that's true, there's no room anyways.
Exactly. So, okay, so we're gonna go through the quick list of home.
How, we should put a time limit on when this should be done for, by July 1?
That gives them roughly
A month and a
6
half?
month and a half, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
no problem.
all right. So,
What they have to do by July 1?
well,
Put in the driveway.
they have to have a hard pack, or a stone, improved stone area to park their vehicle.
And the driveway, not just the parking, but the access to the parking space, another driveway.
They may not be able
They
to
may
get,
not be
they won't be
getting
able to get a wider
Curb cut.
curb cut.
They're gonna have to back or drive in
Yeah.
around from their, and
You
their
can't have
existing.
2 curb cuts.
you know,
The DPW won't grant them.
Okay, then I have a problem then. Okay, how is the truck gonna get from the street to over here?
Just like that.
Well, my concern then would be, what is the surface of,
This would have to all be improved.
so that would, whatever you drive on will be stone?
Yep.
All right, so it won't be rutted lawn?
Right.
Okay.
We'll draw that, we'll put that in the plan, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
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 I just wanna make sure that it looks.
Yeah, I
Okay, I just wanna make sure that we
Yep.
all understand what we're doing.
Yep.
Okay, because there's an existing curb cut on the property,
You understand, right?
and you can't increase the curb cut or,
It's a 1-car curb cut, correct?
I think it would be a
No,
2-car.
it's 2 cars.
It's a 2-car driveway.
yeah, if it's a 2-car driveway all the way.
That's
then
right,
it's
it
a
is.
two-car. Okay,
Yeah,
It was the pickup truck that was.
so if he
front
came
lawn.
from like Glendale Road, he could get in there no problem.
right,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So we're gonna run through all of the standards for operating all home occupations. And there are additional standards for a major home occupation. Some of them overstep each other, so just bear with us as we go. Okay, the owner / operator of every home occupation shall reside in the dwelling unit, the property in which they operate the business. Done. And only 30% of the existing gross floor area of the residential area for the home occupation, non-applicable. There should be no display or storage of finished goods, raw materials, or inventory visible from the street or lot lines, non-applicable, because you're not gonna store anything there. There shall be no storage of goods of products produced off-site unless they are used as a raw material to be combined with finished product. Okay, there again, non-applicable. A lot of these things are very general things. There should be no sale of products or services that are not produced on the premises. Okay, so you cannot put a sign out that says wood chips, because you're gonna have no way to sell it.
Alright,
Okay,
yep.
so. Okay, no advertising on the premises is permitted other than a small non-electric sign not exceeding a 2 square foot area.
And they have that.
And there we go. The premises and building in which the home occupation is conducted may not include a feature or design not customary in residential use buildings. There again, you're not changing that, you're just changing your driveway. Any newly installed or replaced exterior light fixtures shall be aimed and shielded so that it does not shine upwards or produce light beyond the boundaries of the property at which the home occupation is conducted. So if you put up any additional lights, they need to all shine down. Any addition, alteration, or change to a building must comply. There again, you're not building a building, so non-applicable. Toxic, explosive, flammable, combustible, corrosive, radioactive, and similar hazardous materials should not be used, stored, or manufactured on the premises in amounts exceeding those which are typically found in residential use. So, you can't have a storage container, a 55-gallon drum of fuel, or gross stock of oil mix for chainsaws, anything like that beyond what a normal homeowner would have. Off-street parking for the home occupation shall be provided under section 10.1 of the East Hampton zoning ordinance, which I believe is, we've covered. Traffic associated with home occupation shall not place an unreasonable burden on the city, roads, or surrounding neighborhood. You shouldn't have any traffic. Now, number 13 is where we run into the challenge, because it says no overnight storage of any kind of vehicle on the property is permitted, except for those for the personal use of the resident of the property, and for those used in conjunction with the home occupation. So you can store your truck, your chipper, that's it. Okay. And now for major home occupations. Major home occupations must meet the following standards. No more than 2 non-resident employees shall be employed to work at the subject property.
And I would say that the stipulation should be no non-resident employees. Because
No one works on the property,
nobody works in the property.
so I don't think it applies.
Well, you see, this is why I just,
See, if they hire another employee, or maybe they already have another employee that meets with the job sites, but that could happen. I mean, I've had a tree taken down and 2 guys came to the house,
Yeah.
one with a truck and someone to help it. That other person's truck, even their home pickup truck, should not be parked on your property, I don't think. I think if you end up having another employee, they go to the job site, they don't meet you at your home with your truck.
Yeah.
yeah, it's actually covered under here. So that's overnight.
I'm talking about
Right,
daytime.
right. See,
That's a good thing.
see, I was gonna say that if there were any employees that they needed to park with trucks.
I think that they leave at the job site.
Okay.
I mean, that truck, it's a big truck, it's
I
a
agree.
residential neighborhood. I think
All right,
my personal opinion would be to limit it to that truck.
so no non-resident employees on the premises.
Right. If they grow, and I hope they grow, they meet that work, or pick them up at the corner or wherever.
Okay? Unless otherwise determined by the zoning board of appeals, hours of operation to the public, including non-resident employees, clients,
Not,
Well, it's Monday through Friday from 8 AM to 8 PM. So,
but
It's
this
not- we're
says,
not operating at the.
but they're not operating a business there, so. Because there are no non-resident employees, clients, business visitors,
It's
pickers,
not happening. Okay. And then there will also be no increase of vehicles because we're not gonna have anybody coming there. So the next one is not happening. What? As what? Unless otherwise allowed by the board, only class 1, class 2 vehicles as classified. Okay, so this is where we're allowing one bucket truck and a chipper.
Yes.
Okay. The premises and building on which the major home occupation is conducted shall not be made objectionable or detrimental in any manner, including but not limited to the exterior appearance or emission of atmospheric pollution, i.e. odors, gas, fumes, smog, smoke, dust, electrical disturbance, excessive light, glare, noise, or vibration to residential character of the neighborhood and or the residential use of other units in a multifamily structure. So this is where we're gonna put in all the stipulations to what we just discussed about. That the vehicle will be parked beyond the 40-foot setback? Or 30-foot setback?
30-foot setback.
Setback. On, yeah, on improved gravel. Drive. And idling will be in accordance with Mass DOT regulations.
No,
5 minutes.
Which is 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We're just gonna put in parentheses 5 minutes, because I know,
no other potential employee vehicles on the property.
well, we covered that, because there's no non-residential parking.
Oh, okay, so that includes
Better, yeah.
parking, okay.
Yep.
The driveway must be installed by July 1st.
Yep.
You mentioned they're taking down a fence.
Yeah, they had like some lilac bushes and they put like a fence behind it to kinda
This is.
decorate it. It's
Parallel
not
with
like,
the road?
it's right on the right-hand side of the house, or the garage.
It's in the
Yep.
front, in the front.
Yeah, it's like a decoration. It's not like it's a fence, but it's not to hold back anything or keep your dog in the yard. It's a fence, a decoration fence.
Okay. There was, I thought I heard something about a fence, shielding it on one side.
There's a fence. I
Oh,
believe,
our
on
whole
this lot.
backyard's fenced in.
Okay, but it's
If
it's
you
like
go up a
chain- it's
couple
like
feet-
chain link fence?
If you go up a couple feet, or like maybe like 8 feet, like I said,
Stockade.
they put a stockade fence up there just for decoration. I don't know why.
So that will block those
Yeah.
neighbors'
Yeah.
sidewalks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not gonna change, not moving, anything like that, so that's okay.
That's getting pulled out.
The fence, that
No,
one piece of
stockade
fence.
fences now.
Oh,
No,
no, no,
not in
no,
the back,
no,
no.
no.
That's what I want to make sure. All right. Any other questions from the board?
Do we wanna put an expiration on it?
No, I think as long as they comply
Okay.
with the rules.
Oh.
They can continue to.
They are
run.
limited to the one bucket truck and chipper. If their business grows and they continue to grow, I'm glad.
Yeah,
We like to
I
see
was just
successful
throwing
business. And at which point, they need to either come back and ask or find someplace else to park.
Yeah, if it grows, it's going somewhere else.
I don't think it's growing though.
It ain't growing.
Okay, all right, so, I need to make a motion that says all this now, huh?
No, we just did all those findings.
Okay, so,
Um,
a motion based on the plan?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the application by Michael Orzo and Michelle Pelletier of 79 West Street in the city of East Hampton in accordance with the, I got a piece of paper here that has that all. There it is. Zoning ordinance 10.4 major home occupation, and with the conditions which we have presented.
I second.
Second of the motion. All in favor? All right.
So it'll take about 2 weeks for the decision to get written up, at which point they'll be filed with the city clerk, and the applicant will receive a copy of the decision. If anyone is concerned and wants to see a copy of that decision, you can make a note on the sign-in sheet here that you would like a copy of the decision, and we'll send you a copy. Otherwise, you can check in and see if it's been filed. And once the decision is filed, you'll need to file it at the Hampshire County Registry of Deeds.
Is that the one in Northampton?
That's, yeah,
Yeah,
and
okay.
there's a $75 filing fee,
Yeah,
and the decision does not become valid until it's filed there.
okay.
And there's also an appeal period.
Yeah, sorry, there's a 20-day appeal period from the time when the decision is filed with the city clerk
Mhm.
before you can, 20 days appeals before you can.
Okay.
file it.
All these rules.
Yes.
All right. Congratulations.
All right, thank you very much
All
for your
right.
time.
So again, if there's anyone who wanted a copy of that decision, just come up here and make a note on the phone.
Give everybody a few minutes to either leave or find a more comfortable seat.
Thank you.
All right, so, on to our next hearing. Next hearing is on behalf, next applicant is Jason Halfacre of 39 Glendale Street, seeking a special permit to keep chickens on a lot smaller than 15,000 square feet under East Hampton zoning ordinance 10.8 and table 5-1, accessory uses number 7C. The subject property is located at 39 Glendale Street, parcel ID 152-253, and zone residential suburban B R10.
Excuse me,
Okay.
sir? Section 6.88 also applies to the keeping of chickens. I think it's 6.88 B, possibly C.
So, Mr. Halfacre,
Yes, sir.
please.
I have prepared a statement and some visual aids.
We like them.
So I'm sure you guys have all seen the photos that
Yes.
came with my thing, showing my setbacks and pictures of my chicken coop from the street and from in my yard where you can actually see it from. Sure, at least one of you guys has done your due diligence and done a drive-by. You
Yes, I
probably
did.
couldn't even see
I didn't
the
go
back.
on your well, I could tell it was an extension of your garage.
Okay, that's basically a wall, so the neighbors don't have to see it, but it's just an enclosure, and their coop is inside that. You probably weren't even able to see a chicken. I think this is possibly happening because the chickens arrived, they were adopted by our family in November, and I could not build that due to the fact that it was winter time. So, handily enough, I had the wood all cut and ready to put that up when I got the letter, so it went up right away. Basically, I think an important thing for me to do here is to bring to your attention and the attention of the city, as well as the city council, which will happen later, the fact that we're only here because of an inconsistency in the zoning ordinances. It's basically created by multiple and often conflicting rules for keeping up to 6 chickens for occupants use in residential R10 and R5. It results in multiple offices and city boards spending a lot of time and effort for essentially enforcing something which doesn't need to exist because it's already covered in other places in the ordinances. This contradiction runs between table 5.1, line 7B and 7C, where it states this square footage requirement for chickens.
If I could just ask, we're very familiar with the zoning board, the zoning ordinances, and how conflicting they are, okay? And I don't need a lesson on that, but I would like to know what you would like to do and where you'd like to do it.
Absolutely. I would like everyone else in the room to also know this information, because it is a public hearing and they're not necessarily as educated on the zoning ordinances as you are.
Okay.
So I direct the specifics to those other folks who live in my neighborhood who probably would like to know them. Fair enough, sir? Okay. Essentially, I'll summarize. I'll keep it brief for everyone. I have bedtime to get to anyway. Essentially, table 5.1 stipulates that for properties in zones R5 and R10 to have 6 chickens for residential use, they have to be over 15,000 square feet. And if they're under 15,000 square feet, those properties are required to receive a special permit. Looking up the history of when this ordinance was passed in 2011, it seems that it was the intention of the city council to make it so residents can keep chickens in these suburban residential zones, up to 6 chickens for residential use, being that that's kind of, I have a quote actually. Beckley said, regional and beyond, there's a move to local food, and having backyard chickens is part of that. He went further though and said, I think if this can be tied to a certain land area, it's a good idea. There are some lot sizes in which it would be a nuisance. The problem herein is that over 70% of the properties in R5 and R10, and you might not know this, are under 15,000 square feet. And this creates a problem because not only is there this 15,000 square foot requirement, but there is also some significant setbacks required for any chicken compost and manure, as well as the coop and everything. The setbacks are 50 feet from the road and any other neighboring dwelling. On my property, the setbacks are 60 and 80 feet respectively from the nearest buildings, which are both garages, and over 100 feet from both of the nearest dwellings. The problem with this 15,000 square foot, in addition to the setbacks, which is created, is the fact that for me to come here and see you guys and receive my special permit, I have to go through all of this. I have to go through a hearing. Everybody in the city has to spend their time and my money, because I'm charged for this, in order to get a $25 permit from the health department to keep chickens 100 feet from my neighbors. However, if either of my neighbors were to decide to put chickens 50 feet from my home, they could do that. I would not need to be informed. The zoning board would not need to be involved. All they would have to do is spend $25 with the health department. It's not a unique situation. I took a survey of just 70 properties in my neighborhood as an example. It happens 19 times within these 70 properties. If you extrapolate that out, it's a significant portion of those houses in these zones.
What happens 19 times?
19 different houses of 70 houses around me are in the situation where they need to go through this special permitting
If they want
process.
chickens, which
Yes.
means they have under 15,000 square feet.
Right.
I just didn't understand what you were referring to.
Under 15,000 square feet, yet can also meet the setbacks which are in place. Just as a point of reference, in Amherst, if you wanted to have chickens, you would be required to have a 20-foot setback from abutters' dwellings. There is no square footage requirement, except for 10 square feet per adult animal. In Northampton, if you were to want to keep 6 chickens, you would be needed to keep a setback of a minimum of 10 feet from abutters' dwellings. And there's no specific square footage requirement whatsoever. In South Hadley, if you wanted to keep chickens, you would be required to have a 25-foot setback from the neighboring dwellings.
I'm glad to see we're more,
Yeah.
more stringent.
So I purposefully chose towns which are typically like a little bit more conservative than East Hampton and also demographically similar, for this example.
Okay.
Everyone's more than double our setbacks, yet we have this additional square footage requirement.
I will let you know, we don't make the rules,
I understand that.
we just are asked to play by the rules.
I understand that. I have it in writing that this square footage stipulation was added to the ordinance on the request of the planning board. I don't know if any of you were here at the
No,
time or not.
we're not on the
We're not the
planning
pla-
board.
we're not the planning
We're
board.
not the
The
planning
zoning
We are
board.
the zoning board of
It's
appeals.
entirely different.
Yep, they make the rules.
In any case.
We hear them.
In any case, someone, I feel like, did not do their research as to property size when saying people could have chickens, because why would you make this rule
No,
and then
yeah,
exclude
no,
70% of the
No,
residents?
if
Yeah.
they did what they did for a reason, the determination was made on a 15,000 square foot or larger lot, putting a small chicken coop would not impact anybody, but we have a few lots that are much, much smaller than yours, and putting a coop on one of those might inconvenience a neighbor or two. So when the town adopted this regulation, they made lots under the 15,000 square feet get a special permit, just so their separate set of eyes could look at each case individually. Because there are some very, very small lots, and there are some lots that it's probably inappropriate to have a chicken coop on because of the configuration of that neighbor, the neighborhood's homes. So there's some protection for all the residents of the city of East Hampton.
I understand that, but is that not what the setbacks do?
Well,
Okay, let me rephrase the question. In what way would the setbacks not cover that? Because setbacks are very concrete, whereas lot size is an inconcrete method of measure, being that lots are all in different shapes.
It was a
and
regulation that was
houses
put in place,
are
and we are here to hear your appeal, not to hear
Your
you don't-
critique.
your critique and your desire to change the rules.
Fair
And
enough.
we just want to hear
That's understood.
your application.
As far as my application goes, I exceed all the requirements, and, yeah,
Okay.
I feel like I'm
Okay,
being
here-
put under financial hardship that my neighbors would not have to be under if they were in my situation, and I feel targeted. That
Don't take it
is the
personally.
limit of my
No,
critique.
don't.
Don't take it personally.
We have to hear a fair amount of these cases.
We do.
So it's not personal to you.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't, yeah, but
Okay.
So we have a little
Maybe.
bit of.
All right, so where you're keeping them is in excess of all of the regulations for the city.
that's correct.
Okay.
With the exception of the square footage regulation.
Okay. At this point, we will open it up to the public. We're gonna start over here and work our way around the room as we did in the past. As it's your turn, please state your name, your address as clearly as possible.
Charles Patterson, 31.5 Glendale.
Yep.
Couple items. First of all, his right rear line, the people that had the lot before moved the pins. So it looks bigger than what he really got, as far as the land goes. And the other concern is chicken manure. Where's he going with that?
He has it in the back, appears to be
Look at the
northeast
map.
corner.
And Buddy, that's the map from the city. That's not the pins that people have pulled who are not me.
So this is his house, there's the garage, the chicken coop, and the compost pile. And we're not, have no jurisdiction over moving property lines or pins.
Okay, but, is this your boat?
Yes.
This is found about 400 feet down that same road, this road right here. Where are you here?
Right, that's a driveway, right?
Well, we have a road going down to the
Well,
river.
I looked,
Okay. It's a road going down the river. Dirt road,
private,
driveway.
it's private,
was-
it's not a public road.
No. This was 400 feet down the road, abandoned, with parts of his building there in the boat. In other words, he felt that, he's through with it, so he's gonna throw it on somebody else's property. I was gonna throw it back on his yard, but I went to the Board of Health and she told me a different way to handle it. But, is he gonna do that with this chicken crap too? I mean,
If people-
everybody's land around is his.
If people trespass, you should tell them if people trespass on your property, I think you should tell them to get off, and if they don't, you should call the police. That's not a
I
zoning
want you to put a
issue,
fence, that's it.
but we can't regulate trespassing.
Yeah. We don't regulate trespass.
For the record, I put it next to all the ancient rusting appliances that are down there. If you want it gone, please feel free to ask me. I'll get rid of it.
No,
It was just-
you should respect other people's property.
All right.
You're not respecting these people's property with the manure.
I'm here to speak about chickens, and my manure meets all of the requirements for setbacks and exceeds them.
Next, working our way around the room. Yes, sir.
Jeffrey Pluta, 43 Glendale Street. I'm right up against them.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with the chickens at all. Jason's very conscientious. And I understand the girls are taking care of the chickens. They really enjoy it.
They all have names, right?
Yeah, they're very quiet. And there's no smell. You wouldn't even know they're even there. So I'm for it.
All right.
And they're all contained.
You gotta give me your name.
I'm Gladys Pluta, 43 Glendale Street. Sorry
I'm
about
sorry, what
that.
was your name?
I'm the abutter.
What was the name?
Your name again, I'm sorry.
Gladys Pluta.
Gladys Pluta.
Thank you.
I'm a butter to Jason, and I don't have a problem with the chickens.
Okay.
I've been over there, they're all contained, he has a coop, and the girls go in, and this one especially, she plays with the chickens, and she's got a name for each and every one of them.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, in the back row.
Yeah, right?
Christina Smith, 34 Glendale. I'm here tonight, and I'm a proponent for the chickens. I think it's important to be able to have that in our neighborhoods. And the size of the lot shouldn't matter, should it be contained and maintained and not affecting the neighbors negatively. So,
Next.
Oh, I'm for Eleanor Russell, that abuts his property, and she's, she doesn't want it, she's really,
What's the address?
yeah.
What is the address? I'm sorry.
37.
34?
34?
39.
39?
I'm
He's
39.
39.
Oh, no,
Eleanor.
37, I think. she is.
37.
That's right.
Eleanor's like 92 years old and she's sick right now.
Okay.
Okay, but what's your name?
Mine's
still-
Joanne Sinkwich, 32 Glendale Street.
Thank you.
Steve Sinkwich, 24 Wright Street, and I happen to say no. I don't want a farm in my neighborhood, and having chickens, and that's a farm. They lay eggs. That's a farm. It's a farm. And we have a big enough problem with coy dogs and other animals. It's just going to just attract animals. And I have a big enough problem with skunks and bears in my backyard. And I've had bears rip my screen. And the skunks are running around wildly. We live in a wild area, and this is just going to attract them. And the coy dogs, you can hear them howl at night, and it's just, no, it's a farm. No.
May I please
Sorry,
respond to
can
the board?
Can you state your name again?
It's Steve Sinkwich, 24 Wright Street.
where is Wright Street in relationship to this house? Is
It's
it
right across the
behind?
street.
Yeah, it's catty-corner.
across the street? I don't know.
All right. Yes?
John Mortimer, 22 Knight. I have several issues. 1, the noise. 2, the smell of chicken manure. 3, the avoidable attracting of rodents, rats and mice. Animals like raccoons, foxes, possums, skunks can be fenced out. It's highly unlikely that rodents will. And my my last and largest, and several articles that I've looked up in relation to CDC reports about the spread of salmonella bacteria specifically in residential chicken keeping. And I'll quote this briefly. Germs can get, and this is from the CDC report, this isn't my opinion. Germs can get on cages, coops, feed and water dishes, hay, plants, and soil in the area where the birds live and roam. People who have contact with items in the area where poultry live can get sick without actually touching one of the birds. And that's the CDC report. I object to this. Thank you for hearing me.
I thought it was in my folder here.
I wanted to say something too.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Kathy Mortimer, 22 Knight Avenue. I've lived in rural areas in Massachusetts, so I have some experience with living near people who have chickens. My concern is what he's going to do with the manure as it piles up. I mean, I'm catty corner from him too, and I don't want to be smelling that.
May I please respond?
Yeah.
Jason Halfacre, 39 Glendale. In regards to coyotes, foxes, raccoons, etc., my chickens are fully enclosed. For the bottom edge, there are cinder blocks for the enclosure and heavy-duty wire that runs underground. That wire continues 4 feet up and is augmented by normal chicken wire, which in turn runs all the way up and underneath the rafters of the roof of their enclosure. So nothing smaller than a mouse, or nothing larger than a mouse or a rat could get in there. As far as rodents go, I have not noticed any change in the rodents or the amount of mouse poo I find in my garage in the spring. Between chickens and no chickens. In regards to the smell, I have not been able to sense any odor, and I live right there. And I don't believe that anybody, especially on the other side of the road, would be able to do so. In regards to the compost as it piles up, I garden. And I compost it along with my grass clippings, and I put it in the garden. And every year I build a couple more garden beds, so there's plenty of room for that to turn into vegetables for us. In regards to the salmonella, salmonella is a very common bacteria. I have not looked it up, so I can't attest to it, but I would be willing to bet the CDC says the same thing about dog poop and litter boxes. And I know for a fact that washing your hands is an excellent source of prevention of the spread of salmonella, as well as the most common cause of salmonella poisoning is actually leafy greens found in the supermarket. And you are hundreds of times more likely to get salmonella poisoning from those. I spent 12 years as a cook, and last 3 years as a professional chef. For a very large portion of my life, it was my job to know about food poisoning and how to prevent it.
There.
Okay. What I was looking for, that I thought was in my file, but somehow I couldn't take it out, Jamie luckily brought. We had a big discussion at a meeting a year and a half ago about chickens, and we invited the health director who enforces our chicken regulations to a ZBA meeting and asked her to write us a letter about her experiences with chickens, because she is the one who enforces them, the regulations here in East Hampton, and she worked in another community that had chickens, and I would like to read you the letter. This is to the East Hampton Zoning Board from Jackie Duda, Health Agent. Chickens as a source of nuisance. You have asked me to deliver an opinion as to whether the keeping of chickens on private property is of concern to my office, and under what circumstances, if any, they may become a nuisance. Chickens are relatively peaceful animals that do not disturb their neighbors, as long as roosters are not among them. The keeping of a small flock of 6 to 12 chickens often goes completely unnoticed in the neighborhood. Manure from a small flock does not become a nuisance if it was removed regularly or composted on-site properly. Flies and odors are rarely a problem when manure is removed and composted regularly. In addition, chickens require very little room. A dozen chickens can be maintained very easily in a small yard as long as the above conditions are met. Experts recommend 4 square feet per chicken in the coop and 4 to 10 square feet per chicken in the yard. In addition to the benefit of their eggs, chickens eat ticks, which are the real nuisance, since ticks carry many harmful diseases, the best known being Lyme disease. I estimate there are about 60 small flocks of chickens in East Hampton at this time. Our office has not received a single nuisance complaint about chickens in my 4 years here, nor have I received any during my previous 10 years working in rural towns, except for rooster complaints. Insofar as the city does not allow roosters in residential flocks, I do not foresee the keeping of chickens ever being a nuisance, as long as manure is properly maintained. That being said, the health department is duty-bound to investigate all nuisance complaints. We will work to remedy any complaint brought to us about chickens or other nuisances. And I specifically asked for this because I am a proponent of backyard chickens. Because so many, where I used to live and work, lots of people had them and it was not an issue, as long as there were not roosters. Roosters are the real problem. But if this chicken coop, and I would make a motion that we approve it, gets approved, and there is a problem with odor or a nuisance, please call Jackie Duda, because that's part of her job. But she assured us that in her experience here at East Hampton and other town, a small flock of chickens is not a problem. And she has a lot more experience in that than any of us do.
All right. Do you have anything?
I don't have any, oh, you just.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Gladys Pluter, 43 Glenfield Street. I'd like to state that there are neighbors on our street that do have chickens besides Jason, just to let everybody know.
Right.
And they're not a problem.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with this application. I think it was very well laid out, all the requirements, the setback requirements are met. It looks like a very, very good enclosure.
I'd like to-
And I generally agree with Jackie's letter.
I'd like to add, I build furniture for a living. I have a bottomless supply of wonderful smelling hardwood chips that I am continually cycling through there. So it actually makes their poo smell good, like fresh walnut and maple shavings.
You're good. All right. The only question I have, and this is just as a neighbor of someone who has chickens.
Yes, sir.
And they have some sort of anti-attack mechanism out there. I'm not quite sure what it is. It makes some sort of weird noise, or maybe it's the chickens but it sounds like a horn or something like that. I've never heard it before in any other place. I'm gonna ask that you don't put any sort of
No problem.
deterrent device.
No problem. I have enough noisemakers already.
Yeah. My neighbor does too. And my other concern is, I believe the next door neighbor has a pool.
Yes. Jeff and Gladys have a pool.
Okay, then that answers that question, because they're in favor. I was concerned about outdoor activity and the chickens and association with the outdoor activity.
But like I say, I've seen it, it's all contained,
Yep.
so.
All right. All right. Do I need to read through all this?
Can you just?
Yeah. What's that?
6.88 and 10.82. Can you do
You want the vote gone, buddy?
What?
You want the vote gone?
You want,
Yeah.
want a gun? We'll get
Gone.
it.
Want me to get rid of the vote? I'm happy to.
What?
Do you want me to get rid of the vote that I stuck back there? I'm happy to.
No, it's gone.
It's gone?
Yeah.
Hold it up.
Sorry, I took care of his tree when it crushed my garage.
For the keeping of chickens numbered 6 or less, no roosters, for the private use of the occupant only, so you can't sell the eggs.
You can give them
You
away.
can give them away.
Yeah, we give them to our neighbors.
I think I
said
never
that.
met someone who doesn't.
Shall be kept in an enclosure of, or building 50 feet or more from a street line and 50 feet or more from any dwelling other than the dwelling in which they are necessary. You meet that requirement, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next one, 10 point what?
10.82.
It's in here, I know it is.
Computer safe paper.
10.82, keeping of farm animals. Structures and waste, manure compost, locations related to the keeping of farm animals shall meet the required setbacks and structures of section 6.88B, which is 50 feet.
Yes, sir.
You meet that. Animals shall be restricted to the property. You meet that. Farm animals are permitted with properties with 1 or 2 dwelling units. Farm animals are not permitted in multifamily, not that. For chickens allowed under the section of the ordinance, a permit or license shall be obtained from the Board of Health stating the location and number of chickens. The Board of Health shall be monitoring and enforcement agent of this section of the ordinance. So you still need to go get a permit from?
Yes, after I pay the hall of deeds, I can go to the health department, get my $25 permit.
Don't make the rules, just enforce them.
When I started reading these rules, I was floored. I just,
And remember, we don't get paid. We're here
right.
because
We
we
know.
want to be. We want to be here. I look at it
We
as
wanna.
You want all the
support
headaches, that's what you want?
somebody has to do it.
Support the community we live in.
Okay? I like the community I live in. I want to be able to say I am a proud member and a proud resident of East Hampton, which I am. So there we are.
When we moved here, we moved to Amherst. We lived there for 6 months. We moved to East Hampton. We bought a house here 6 months later.
There you go. All right. So what's that?
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion to approve.
I move that we approve the keeping of up to 6 hens at 39 Glendale Street for, Hall Face.
Half acre,
Half
just like a
acre?
half an acre of land. Which, if I had that much, I wouldn't be here.
For half acre, subject to getting the permit from the health
Health
department.
department.
There you go. Second. Tony's in for the second. All in favor? Sold.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for carrying through my frustrations with the situation.
You're not the first one, believe me.
Or you all have the patience of
So,
saints.
so same thing with the, it'll take about 2 weeks to get the decision.
Yep, and then Hall of Deeds, then Health Department.
Yep, the appeal
Yep.
period, and once you get the.
2 weeks for the.
Once you get the, notice of the decision and the appeal period, you come back to the health department to get your.
Awesome.
$25 permits.
Thank you very much.
All right, have yourself a great night.
You guys too.
All right, motion to adjournment?
Have a couple chairs, girls.
Motion to adjourn? Second. All right, all in favor? Aye.